Alright, so in stage 1, which is the initial stage, the left hand is holding the ball, which is causing extension of the elbow joint. The shoulder moves forward into the sagittal plane and is supination because the back of the hand is facing downwards towards the ground and the palm of the hand is facing upwards. And it is a uniaxial because it is only moving through one of the axes. Then in the right hand, there's an angular movement which is caused by an acute angle at the elbow joint, and is an isometric contraction, which is a form of contraction that muscle length remains a constant. It occurs when muscle force balances resistance and no joint movement occurs. So another example of this would be carrying an arm full of shopping bags. The reason why this is an isometric contraction is because the arm is held above the head in that same position until the ball is tossed, then it moves into the next movement. This is also pronation because the palm of the hand is facing downwards towards the ground. And there's also flex in the bicep and tricep, and the tricep is also an extensor muscle of the elbow joint. This is also moving through the transverse plane since it is moving sideways since the movement is moving sideways and not forwards. The ball and socket joint is also used when doing this movement and is also considered elevation since it is moving above the head and is also uniaxial because it's only moving through one of the axes. There's also a stretching of the latissimus dorsi with support from the rectus abdominis and the internal and external obliquus. And there's an extension into the posterior deltoid, which is on top and behind the shoulder. Then moving to the left leg, there's a flexing of the quadriceps femoris, calf, and hamstrings, and all the weight is on that leg since it is the back leg, and the hip flexors are also helping with stability. And then in the right leg, there's abduction since it is moving forward away from the medial point. Stage 2, which is the initial stage, which is still considered the initial stage of the overhand serve. There's a supination at the left arm since the palm is still facing upwards and the back of the hand is still facing downwards. The ball and socket joint is moving upwards to toss the ball. And is still moving across, and the movement is still inside of the sagittal plane, which makes it uniaxial since it's only moving through one of the axes. The right arm is still at an angle, but is having extension at the elbow joint since the angle is decreasing, so it's becoming more of an obtuse angle. And this movement is considered a concentric contraction, which is a type of isotonic contraction that concerns muscle actions that produce a force to overcome the load being acted upon. So shortening contraction, which typically occurs against gravity. So since the arm is moving against gravity, this is considered a concentric contraction. So the arm is moving backwards on the sagittal plane, and the ball and socket joint and posterior deltoid are also involved in the movement at the shoulder. There's still an elevation since it is moving above the head, and this movement is still uniaxial since it's only moving in the sagittal plane. In the core of the body, there is an extension. The core is activated and there's an extension at the neck. And then in the left leg, there is abduction since the leg is moving forward away from the medial plane. And there is still flexing of the quadriceps femoris, calf, and the hamstrings. The hips move along the transverse plane, which makes it uniaxial since it's only moving through one of the planes. Then the right leg is holding all the weight of the body and is keeping stability, and the entire leg is flexed, and for power it is pushing off of the calf or off of the ankle into the calf to add more power into the hits. So stage 3, which is the action phase, the right hand is moving upwards along the sagittal plane, and the elbow joint is extending, and there's a pronation since the palm of the hand will be facing downwards once the hand has hit the ball. And the back of the hand will be facing upwards. This is also going to be going through the transverse plane into the sagittal plane since it is moving sideways and then straight upwards, which means that this is biaxial since it's moving to two of the axes. And the ball and socket joint and posterior deltoid are also going into making sure that is also involved in the movement of hitting the ball, and is where most of the power comes from, along with the rest of the body. And then in the core, the core is moving along the transverse plane and is uniaxial since it's only moving through one of the planes. And then in the left leg, there is an extension at the thigh since it is straightening, and the angle at the knee joint is straightening and decreasing, and all the muscles in the leg are flexed, and this is where most of the weight is at this point. And then the right leg is sliding on the toe through the sagittal plane, which is also considered a plantar flexion since it is moving on its toe, and is still uniaxial since it's only moving through one of the planes.